Don't you worry, the clip's about to begin, but don't forget to subscribe. Or else. Don't make me turn this website around.
Andrew in Boston, an atheist. Why does it seem impossible to reach past the wall of republicanism and Christianity when talking to people? You're on with Mandisa and maybe me.
Hello.
Maybe Matt, yeah, right. What's up, guys?
Hey.
So I actually recently deconverted from Christianity. It was, miserable, as Matt could probably say. But what I've been finding is that it's kind of horrifying realizing there's this epistemic crisis in our nation, that 70 million people voted for Trump, and a lot of that is because of the credulity and authoritarianism that is indoctrinated into people because of Christianity. And so I'm calling to be like, what can be done to bridge that epistemic divide at all? Because I've had 15 conversations with Christians in my old church and old Christians from my life from when I was growing up. And it's there's seemingly no way to bridge that divide. What do you guys think about that?
Well, first, congratulations on your deconversion. I can imagine that it is still a process. And for many people like yourself, it can be painful. It can be, just this harsh wake-up call to realize that many of the things that you were indoctrinated with, from the point of view that some people may have thought that they were doing it out of care and concern for your well-being, to realize that you were pretty much lied to, it's probably a horrifying discovery, and our hearts are with you on that. There are so many people who go through it. Part of this process is also the even more equally painful understanding that there are some people who will probably never get it. They will probably be stuck until the day they die. And it's it's an unfortunate reality. I mean, the best thing I think that you can possibly do, and maybe Matt can give a more detailed, answer to that. But I would say that even in your own deconversion and your own process, you may want to be careful not to overexert yourself trying to convince them that they're wrong, because that may be an exercise in futility. You may only be hurting yourself even more. So you have to be, unfortunately, prepared to at least distance and at least not have those conversations, or or bring them to a minimum. I mean, if you think that the conversation can be somewhat objective, then great. But if you realize that there is no changing these people's minds, it may be better to keep your distance for a while, especially while you continue to heal yourself, if that makes sense. Because I mean, and there's especially once you deconvert, or once you recently leave, there's a lot of information that you're, and you actually want to spread the good word, right? Like a lot of believers do. I mean, I remember what it was like, to find a community, and I was so outspoken, and I wanted to tell people, this is bullshit and all this other stuff. I think many of us go through that. And that's very, very valid. However, as you deal with your own process and your trauma, because you're overcoming trauma, it's going to be important for you to seek out, those resources that help you deal with that before you can actually start to engage people objectively about religion, about politics, which are very much intertwined. You're absolutely right about that. There are a lot of things that a lot of these systems that stem from a religious belief. But getting people to the point where they understand that is going to be a whole other task. And I think it's important for you to take that time for yourself to really get to that point where you are, where you are truly healing and are able to have these conversations objectively.
Yep. I couldn't agree more.
Thank you for that. Before Matt butts in here, I just wanted to say that's been huge in all of this, is that... Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you. What did you say?
No, continue. That's the best. That's the best
Hello?
shutdown of me anybody's done in a month.
No, is
So
that no, this
continue.
was good. He just laughed.
Yeah, I was lagging. What I was going to say is, yeah, the trauma has been huge in all this. And the difficult part is separating out what is the trauma from indoctrination is what is just like normal human pathos, just, hey, I'm having a bad day and I feel anxiety. That's that's been the really hard part of all of this. How do you separate? So thank you for acknowledging the difficult emotional side of all of this.
It's really troubling. So the only thing that I have that I'm reluctant to add anything to what Mandisa said because we're in such agreement. But you got to protect yourself and you got to pick your battles. Like I don't argue with my mom anymore. We're done. Because if I argue with my mom, I'm going to wind up blocking her and never talking to her again for the rest of her life. So we just don't do that. The other thing is, imagine there's two people standing in front of you right now, and both of them disagree with you on some issue. Doesn't matter what it is. One of them is someone who's never going to change their mind. They're just too dyed in the wool. There's, you can talk to your blue in the face. You can present evidence all day long, and they're never going to change their mind. And the other one is someone whose mind can be changed. How do you tell the difference between them?
Is this rhetorical or are you actually asking?
Well, it's pretty much rhetorical. I don't know how to tell the difference between them, even when I'm talking to them. Until one of them changes their mind, I don't know which of the two can potentially change their mind. And because of that, I have to talk to both of them if I'm wanting to change as many minds as possible. And that means that sometimes you're going to be in conversations that are ultimately futile, and you just gotta accept that that's what's going to happen. You're not going to change every mind. Sometimes, though, you're going to talk to somebody, and you're not going to change their mind at all. But 3 days later, or 3 months later, or 3 years later, they're going to have a conversation with somebody else who's going to say the same shit you did, and maybe they smiled differently, maybe they had a different hairstyle, maybe the person was in a better mood. Maybe somebody had a better meal that day and all of a sudden it clicks. Or maybe it's because the first time you hear something, it's weird. The second time you hear something, it's, hey, I think I've heard that before. And the third time you hear something, now there's a pattern. That's how you get to atheist normalcy. That's what you do. You make sure that everybody's met an atheist. They can hate the first one and think, oh, it's some weirdo. And then the second one, they're like, hang on, you're my neighbor. You're not a bad person. And the third one is, holy crap, my niece is an atheist. What's going on here? That's how you get to normalcy. And that's outside of just talking about education. That's the path to changing people's minds, making connections with people. Once, we joked earlier about, when Obama was president, we all had a black friend. Well, if you got a black friend and you listen to them, you might do better on issues related to people of color. If you've got an LGBTQIA friend and you listen to them, you might do better on those issues. How many of these, anti-marriage equality Republicans change their position as soon as a niece or a nephew comes out as gay? You've got to make people care about people. And there are always going to be some people out there, the Dexters of the world or whoever, who don't give a fuck about anybody, but you can't always tell who they are. So you just got to be the humanist to go out and keep trying and trying and trying and trying and treasure the ones that where there's progress, and just anytime where there's not progress, move on.
Right. And Matt said he said a very, very important word, listening. And that is a good way to be able to gauge who is more open to the conversation and who isn't. Definitely listening to them. Listening to see where they are and where you think that their minds, where they may be progressive, and listening to see where they aren't. That's going to be that's a huge part of communication. It's listening.
Yeah, the difficult part about this is when you have a stealth apologist, someone who pretends to be, oh, cool with the conversation, then boom, they gotcha with the gotcha. And I think those are the most difficult ones, where you feel like you're invested in something, and then the whole thing was just a setup for a lame apologetics argument. So, but yeah, I hear you. It's just happens. That the intellectual in me wishes that you could just sort of reason people into something rather than it being a social thing. Like, oh, I know an atheist. So, yeah, but I hear what you guys are saying.
Yep. On that note, Andrew, I'm going to let you go because I made a promise to people that I'd be reading out super chats, even though we don't normally do that on the Sunday show. We do that on the Hang Up. But because I said we're going to do it, we're going to do it. So I appreciate your time and your call, and hopefully
Thank you, Andrew.
What we said was useful.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Cheers.
Hey, thanks for checking out this clip for The Line. While you're here, hit that like button, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and then share this with that bitter uncle of yours who loves talking about the good old days.